I'd like to thank everybody for being part of the CCBF business leadership discussion today. And today we're going to be talking about business planning for leaders. Today, I want to talk about some of the concepts of producing good quality business plans, but I'm also going to talk about them in a Christian perspective and a little bit from my own personal experience and perspective, because many of you have been involved in business planning in the past and strategic planning, and you have your own experiences. And perhaps what I can do today is add to those thoughts, maybe bring you some fresh thinking, and also potentially bringing you some ideas that will refresh your own opinions of the planning. One of the things that I have read of reports for the last 30 to 35 years has been the absolute failure of businesses to be able to plan successfully. The latest one was from Norton and Kaplan that cited a study that 90% of organizations fail to execute their strategy successfully. That overall failure has been very consistently reported for probably as long as I have been in business. And you kind of wonder why. And one of the reasons is I think that people do planning not very well in general. But also I think that as a Christian, we also struggle between how to blend business planning with our own faith and beliefs in God. And so we're going to talk about that right up front here. A lot of Christians that I talk to do not think that they have to plan at all, that somehow that God has a plan, therefore we don't have to plan. Jeremiah 29:11 is one of those classic phrases that I bump up in fairly frequently in those discussions. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. But the context of Jeremiah 29:11 is not a discussion from God that says, don't bother to plan. The context is the Israelites were enslaved by the Babylonians, and God was sending them a message of hope. And this wasn't about not being prepared to move out of slavery, not to plan for a better life. It was God giving the Israelites hope that he has a plan to get them out of this. The other one is Matthew 6:26, which is, look at the birds of the air, they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Again, this isn't about an instruction to not plan. This is an instruction that says, again, to move through life bravely in the way that God wants us to live our lives, and to do so not worrying about day-to-day things and focusing on our own prosperity and survival rather than focusing on God's desire for us and where he wants us to go. So again, this is about being brave. This is about being able to do things that God asks us to do without worrying about our own physical survival. So what is a plan? The original plan, the word plan comes from the Hebrew word tashit, which is a plan, a design, and a blueprint. If we're reminded about the conversation with Jesus where he was asked what's the most important of all the commandments, and you got to remember that at that time the Israelites had documented probably about 600 sins and commandments to work with, and that was very difficult and confusing. So Jesus' answer was very simple: love God with all your heart and your strength, and do the same for your fellow neighbor. The key word in that is to love. So what is to love? Love comes from a couple of different Hebrew words, hesed and ahava. Roughly translated, those two words mean unearned, unreserved kindness and generosity for everyone, even strangers. So God's plan and blueprint is based on love, which is unearned, unreserved kindness and generosity, not romantic, but kindness and generosity. So if we're now looking at the plan, it becomes a little bit clearer. But again, God has not given us individual instruction sets for our lives. This is what we have to work out for ourselves. Plans. So God's plan is a design for the world to live in love, in Hesed Ahava. Man's plan is a set of actions to achieve business goals. Can we do both? I believe we can. And in fact, I think it's an imperative to blend those two and look at God's plan as the blueprint, and our planning is how to implement that blueprint. Corinthians 13:4-7 talks about what love is. And in fact, if you look at Galatians 5:22, it provides some other good descriptions of what God is asking to live like. Patient, love is patient and kind, doesn't envy, boast, not proud, doesn't dishonor others. It's not self-seeking and easily angered. Keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, trusts, hopes, perseveres. So if I've highlighted the positive words about love, patient, kind, truthful, protecting, trusting, hoping, persevering, those are the words that describe what we are being asked by God, I believe, to bring into our business lives and our business plans. If I take the negative words, the not words here, it says that the secular world, business world, is self-seeking, easily angered, keeps records of wrong, and delights in evil. And I don't know about you, but I have bumped into way too many businesses and organizations in my life that perfectly describes their philosophy, which is exactly the opposite of what God is asking us to do. The other thing that drives me crazy is when business people do horrible things and say, well, it's just business, which is a blanket excuse for immoral and amoral behaviors that are self-serving and not God-serving. So I'm hoping none of you have used that terminology in your business life. And if you have, maybe you'll rethink about using it in the future. So here's the thing. First, we must choose God. And when we choose God, he commands us to love. And then what we have to do is then we can plan our actions to implement what God's design is for our lives. The core idea here is pretty simple. God's design for us is based in love, not profit, and so should your business plans. So how does that work together? Because if we are now trying to build based on values of God's love, how do we then use that to drive business planning and implement successful strategies in our businesses that are aligned with God's desire for our lives? Well, I always start off with what the values are. What are you trying to do as a business? What are you trying to achieve? Because even if you're in the secular world and you don't believe in God, the big question in this world right now is what values are you building your business on? There are tons of discussion points around that. The U.S. has got a concept called B Corps. B Corps are ethical organizations that are doing things for more than just profit. There are ESG guidelines in Europe being implemented to evaluate companies based on something other than just profit. Discussions in Canada at the Certified Accounting Association level are having debates about should accountants be accounting for something other than money. This is an enormous topic. And I sit back and I smile because this is a topic that God has an answer for us, and it's fairly simple. So how do you use that value set then to start building a business plan? Well, the first thing is we need to start to focus on how you translate those values into a business mission. Now, a mission and a vision for a business is critical because It's the guidepost that says everything flows from that, everything is guided by that. It describes what you do or you provide. It describes who you do it for. Who are your clients? What makes you unique? And what is it that you want to become as a business? This is what's described in a vision and a mission statement. From that flows your business strategy. Once you know what you want to be when you grow up, you now can figure out what the strategy is to get there. And a strategy is, simplest definition for a strategy is a way of getting things done that you believe will work. That's it. It describes an assessment of your current situation, so you know where you're starting, how you intend to use your talents and strengths in the organization. Talents being some of the things that God has given us to work with, experiences that we have, certifications, education, experiences. All of these things are talents. What motivates and inspires others? So building a strategy that is motivating and inspiring for others is so critical in getting it implemented well, because if it's not motivating and it's not inspiring, nobody's going to do it. And last of all, your brand promise. A brand promise is, if you as a customer or you as an employee or you as a supplier come to me and want to work with my business, this is the experience that I promise you will get working with me. Once I have a strategy, the next issue is to set goals for the business. Goals are set after mission and vision and after business strategy. And goals describe what are the key results you want from each element, the result from each element, and then specific components of each of those results, and then how you intend to track those components. So you break it down starting with what is the outcome or the result you want from your strategy? What are the key things that are going to drive those results? And what's measurable, and how do you intend to track those? Last but not least, then you produce your operational or your business plans, which is describing what your expectations are going to be for your operational teams as they move forward, but also a list of what needs to change, because without change, nothing gets better. And then lastly is how you intend to dashboard that progress. And that's a little different from tracking goals, because tracking goals are things that you check into from time to time. It's periodic checkpoint. Are we getting closer to where we're going to? It's kind of like looking at a map and saying, well, how many miles until our destination? But in a business plan, it's not like the map. It's a lot more like the dashboard on your car. It, just like the dashboard in your car has gauges on it, it tells you, how fast are you going, whether or not your engine is overheating or running well. It tells you how much gas you have left in the tank. Those are the kinds of things that you want to track in a business plan. Those are operational, ongoing, real-time checkpoints to say, is the business operating properly? So all of that together produces a complete strategic and operational business plan, in this case, based on God's love and his commandment for us to love others. How do I implement that? Because this all sounds a little bit hypothetical at this point. Well, let's make it a little less hypothetical. So say I take a look at God's love, his design for kindness and generosity, and some version of this, you say, look, I want the mission of my business to be able to expand generosity in this world. So how am I going to do that? Well, I need a strategy that says to expand generosity, I need to have profits, because if I don't have profits, I can't be generous with them. So I've got to grow that profit. How do I do that? Well, I can improve efficiencies and I can increase sales. And now I can start building business strategies to grow profits, that have goals and plans based on improving the efficiency in my organization, increasing sales, but I'm generating those profits so that God's purpose is going to be honored, which is I'm going to use those profits to expand generosity with my employees, with my customers, with my suppliers, potentially with my community, with my church. I can't do that unless I have profits to be generous with. The other thing about expanding generosity is that I might decide that I need to reach more people, because if I'm going to expand generosity, it's not just about being able to be generous, but potentially being generous to more people. So now I need a business plan to reach more people. Part of that strategy might be better marketing. I've got to market my business to a broader set of people to talk about what we as a business do and what we stand for, and attract people to that business model. All of this drives a need to change. So rather than setting your business goals up and saying, well, we did, we're going to do 10% more sales and, 10% more to the bottom line this year, what do we have to do? What we're looking at here is more transitional and transformative in the business, that says, how do I achieve a greater business mission, and what needs to change my business to do that? Being honest with yourself, probably quite a bit, but planning is about choosing those small number of things to focus on to start, and to do those correctly to be able to improve efficiencies, grow profits, and expand your generosity, for example. Now, if I flip that, what I'm now drawing is a diagram here that says I have a business that now is rooted in the values of God and God's love. And I'm out of that set of God's values. I'm going to build my business mission around one of those values, in this case, expanding generosity. And from that, I unfold my business plan and grow it into the detail that needs to be done in order to bear fruit from this structure. And in this case, it looks much like a tree structure, where the roots go down deep into God, and the branches that bear fruit grow from that through your business. So I'm going to give you a quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. It says, "Good plans without good work is nothing." Man, does that sound familiar? If we look at those words, that really sounds like, faith without works is dead. And Eisenhower's observation is very, very closely aligned to this, which essentially says that you can have all the faith you want, you can have all the plans you want, but unless you do the work of figuring out how that's going to occur, nothing's going to happen. Unless you do the work to take those plans and put them into action, nothing is going to happen. And so planning is the first step of defining and thinking through a set of actions that is going to achieve your plan. And if you achieve your plan rooted in God's love, and commit your plans to God, as He asks us to, He will bless what we're doing, as long as what we're doing is aligned with His purpose and design, and not just to make us more money. Now, there's a lot more to this, obviously. And if you want to get a hold of me, my name is Pete Baran. I've been the founder and owner of BlueNeck for over 15 years now. The website's blueneck.ca. You can contact me toll free at 866-308-2770. Again, thanks very, very much for the time you spent with me this morning. I hope I've been able to inspire you and connect a few dots, and get you thinking about the planning process in your own company, and how you can start to create something that's going to honor God, and something that's going to work for your business, because you don't have to have one with the other. The two of them need to blend. Our businesses can be a vehicle to honor God. Thanks very much.